Okay, and we are live on YouTube, so we can go ahead and get started. The mayor, Joel Fajardo, is the chair. He let me know that he's got a conflicting meeting that started a little earlier, but will be running a little long. So he may be about 15 or 20 minutes late today, but he'll be joining us. So the chair would be Councilmember Robert Gonzalez, who is on the meeting with us. Councilmember Gonzalez, would you like me to go forward with roll call?
Yes, thank you. I would just first and foremost like to say welcome, and I would like to call to order the reestablished San Fernando Disaster Service Council, today's regular scheduled meeting for July 16th, 2020 at 3 p.m. Well, it is now what?
3:03. Yeah.
3:03. And if we can please do roll call.
Sure. Mayor Joel Fajardo is absent. Councilmember Robert C. Gonzalez.
Present.
Matt Baumgartner, Assistant Director of Emergency Services for San Fernando.
Present.
Lieutenant Erwin Rosenberg, the Coordinator of Emergency Services for San Fernando.
You're on mute.
Present.
Gene Rosk, Disaster Communications Representative.
Gene Roski, and I'm present.
Roski. So I apologize. Thank you. I do not see a Los Angeles Fire Department representative yet, or the representative from Red Cross. Jose Razo, the representative from LAUSD.
Present.
And we do not have a representative from the California Emergency Mobile Patrol. We do it with that, Chair Gonzalez, we do have 5 members present, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Can I please have Sergeant Rosenberg lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. If you'll just stand, put your right hand over your heart and begin after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to which, well, I forgot. Sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And I have forgotten for some reason. I don't know why I'm drawing
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies.
Thank you.
That's all right. It's a team effort.
I apologize.
We'll be accepting your retirement papers later today.
Thank you very much.
It's all right. It's our first meeting in years. There's cobwebs. Here we go. So can I have a motion for approval of agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved by Council member Roski, seconded by Rosenberg. I'll take all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you. Now, can we, do I have a motion for consent calendar? Okay. Do we have a motion to approval of the consent calendar? I guess I will make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
First,
Thank you. And then, because it is virtual, should we not be doing roll call for every?
I think on approval of the agenda and certain items, we can do a roll call.
I mean, let's just do a roll call just
Yeah,
for
I'm fine with
formality.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So consent calendar, we have a motion by Gonzalez, second by Baumgartner. And do we have, Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilperson Matt Baumgartner?
Yes.
Council member Erwin Rosenberg,
Yes.
Council member Gene Roski,
Sorry, muted. Yes.
perfect, and Council member Jose Razo.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 ayes. And council member or Vice Chair Gonzalez, we do have the public statements. I'll just make an announcement. We did not receive any public statements prior to the council meeting, to the disaster council meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. And at this time, we would move on to the administrative reports. Give me 1 second. And as part of going into the administrative reports, I know that this is our first meeting that we've had in years. And most of us have not met, or I wouldn't say most of us, but some of us have not met in person. So at this time, I would just like to take a brief second before we move on into the agenda and just introduce each other to it ourselves. So, of course, my name is Robert Gonzalez. I'm a council member here for the city of San Fernando. And on my job that pays the bills, I say, I work for LA City Recreation and Parks. I'm also part of the Emergency Response Action Team for Department of Recreation and Parks and the logistics section. Then we want to go just down. Nick, if you would like to just
Sure.
go off and maybe call people out.
Sure, let's go next. We'll go with Matt Baumgartner, who's the Public Works Director and Assistant Director of Emergency Services for San Fernando.
Hi, yes, I am Matt Baumgartner. I started about 3 weeks ago with the city as the new Public Works Director and just getting up to speed on everything here. But I've been working with Lieutenant Rosenberg on a few of the emergency mitigation plan efforts at the city. So I'm kind of getting up to speed quickly and look forward to being part of the council.
Thank you, Matt. And let's, if we could pause for a second, we just had Chair Joel Fajardo just joined us. So we went through approve of the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. We were just starting introductions. And then before we go into the first administrative report. And then we also had a caller joined by phone just a minute ago. Who is that? I can rename you.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit when you mentioned the caller.
Oh yeah, sorry. There's a caller. Someone called in right before you, Mayor Fajardo. So I just wanted to know it's last 4 of your phone number are 3549.
That is not related to me.
My name is Janet Gibson, and I represent the Cert.
All right, the Christina Rodriguez. Is that what it is?
No, Janet Gibson. I represent the Cert team.
Oh, the Cert team. Okay. And what was it? It's Dan. I'm sorry, it was a little hard to hear.
Janet Gibson.
Janice. Gotcha. And you were with Cert. Okay. So Mayor Fajardo, the Vice Chair Gonzalez already introduced himself, and Matt Baumgartner already introduced himself. So if you want to go now, and then we'll continue back down the line.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everyone who is with us here today. This is a very important meeting, and I'm glad that we are able to all come together. I apologize that I was a little bit late. I had inadvertently double booked both this meeting as well as my San Fernando Valley Council of Governments meeting. But I am glad to be here. We have a lot of important work to do. I look forward to working with you all. And Mr. Kimball, I cannot seem to find the agenda in my inbox. I'm not sure if it was accidentally deleted, but would you be able to resend that to me so that I can be consistent with everyone else on this agenda?
Yeah, we'll have have it emailed to you in the next minute or two.
Thank you.
And then the next person would be Lieutenant Rosenberg, if you want to introduce yourself.
Let's see if I can remember about myself now, since I couldn't do the pledge. I apologize. As a lieutenant for detectives and administrative services, I have the responsibility for emergency coordination. And so that's my role here at the Disaster Council, and as part of the police department is to focus on emergency services, emergency preparedness, emergency training, and emergency coordination.
Thank you.
The next person on the agenda is Gene Roski.
I'm a disaster communications volunteer with the police department. Basically, I'm an amateur radio operator, and I've one of about 10 volunteers who can operate amateur radio during a disaster. We also help to maintain the city's emergency operations center.
Thank you. And then Mr. Razzo with LAUSD.
My name is Jose Razo, and I'm the Administrator of Operations for Local District Northeast. I help support and oversee the operations for the 122 schools we have in the San Fernando Valley. Prior to that, I was a director, and so one of the schools that was actually my school was Morningside. Prior to that, I was a principal both at Top Fair and Lancashire Elementary Schools.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. And then we have Christina Rodriguez joined by phone with the American Red Cross. So Christina, if you could just unmute yourself and just give us a quick introduction.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Rodriguez, and I am the Business Operations Coordinator for T1 for the American Red Cross LA region. And with my position, I am very involved with the city of San Fernando with their coalition team. So it's just about bringing resiliency for the city of San Fernando and how we can help, the community when there is a disaster.
Great. Thank you very much, Christina. And then Janice with Cert, if you can introduce yourself.
My name is Janet Gibson, and I am a representative of the Community Emergency Response Team, also part of the coalition. And our job is to help get citizens trained to deal with emergencies when the first responders are not available.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. I did get a note from LAFD. I guess they're currently having a minor COVID outbreak at their station, so they are not able to attend today. And then from a staff perspective, my name is Nick Kimball. I'm the city manager for City of San Fernando. We also have Julian Venegas as staff support, who's our Recreation Community Services Director. Tim Howe is our Deputy City Manager and Community Development Director. And then we have our Police Chief, Tony Viro, that are here if any questions come up and Director of Finance, Diego Ibanez. We're all on the call if anything comes up and you need some staff support. So with that, but Chair Fajardo, I believe you have the agenda.
Yes, I simply pulled it from the city's website, but you probably did email it to me. I didn't want to interrupt anyone. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Kimball, for helping out with those initial parts. We have done the introductions. We have approved the agenda. Mr. Kimball, do we have any public statements for this meeting?
No, we went through the public statements and we actually already approved the consent calendar as well.
Oh, you did approve consent. Okay.
Yeah, so we're actually on administrative. We can start the administrative report section now, if you would like.
Thank you. When you said the first administrative report, I was thinking item number 1 on the agenda, but
yeah, sorry.
I understand the difference now. So we are now at item number 2. This is the first administrative report, as Mr. Kimball stated. This is a discussion pertaining to each agency's COVID-19 planning and response efforts to date, including education and enforcement efforts, plans, procedures, and protocols to respond to a rapid increase in cases and hospitalizations, e.g. worst case scenario planning, and opportunities to increase cooperation and coordination between agencies. Mr. Kimball, I feel that you probably have the most robust set of notes on everything that had been discussed related to this. And so if you would like to lead us in the discussion, I think that you are best equipped amongst us.
Sure. And I think what can kind of get it started a little bit with what San Fernando, the city's role has been over the last 5 or 6 months now throughout this response. And then, you know, maybe each agency can kind of talk about what their efforts have been and sort of how they've been kind of dealing, what have been their major challenges. And then obviously we can talk about how we can help each other, you know, throughout this, because there's a lot of overlap. So obviously back in March, on March 16th is when the city declared a local emergency. And ever since then, we've sort of been trying to stay diligent and finding the best ways to really push out information to our residents. You know, and we've been using websites, social media. We've sent out a number of postcards every few weeks that has some pertinent information on it. And we're really trying to get people to our website, you know, because we have a bunch of resources up there, including not only just information on health orders, which, you know, seem to be changing weekly throughout this response. But we also, you know, we've also facilitated a number of food drives, food giveaways. We facilitated, we're going to start passing out PPE to some of our businesses that as they open up. We facilitated an outdoor dining program. We had a parking relaxation program for a while to kind of assist people with staying home. We waived fees on our public transportation for our parking meter. So we've really been trying to support the community in their effort to stay at home and comply with the order. And as we open up, we're really trying to make it easier for businesses to operate in a safe way by having outdoor dining where appropriate. You know, obviously, we're not at the forefront from a medical standpoint. I mean, we're not treating anybody. So really our efforts have been on education and then enforcement, and our community development director, Tim Howe, has been, his team in code enforcement has been sort of leading our enforcement effort. And when I say enforcement, we've really been trying to, we haven't been giving out tickets. We've been really trying to encourage people to voluntarily comply and educate them on what their compliance should be. So that's where a bulk of the city's efforts have really kind of focused. And then obviously under the city council's leadership, we've really tried to, you know, implement a lot of policies, at least to make it a little bit easier for some of our residents. So that's kind of where I think the city has focused our efforts. I would like to defer to the disaster council member Rosenberg, who's really been our emergency coordinator and doing a lot of interaction with Cal OES and you know, assisting with a response, our local response. So if you have anything to add to that, Lieutenant, that would be, now's your time. Go ahead.
I think you've done a great job of laying it out. I think just we've kept the County Emergency Operations Center informed as required. Initially, they had asked for daily updates through their org system. Now it's twice a week. We make sure they get a few bullet points updating them on any new developments, any changes with regards to our situation and status. We've maintained, as many folks have seen, the trailers in the city's parking lot, 6N, which came as a part of this response effort to be available. And thanks to the chief's leadership and assistance within the department and other members of the city, we've been able to keep those ready in case we need to isolate or quarantine members of the city's staff or their families. And so I think we've done a pretty good job of being able to deal with that. And at the same time, some of the other challenges that came along, including, you know, the civil unrest, our relationship with Cal OES, I think, has only been strengthened. And so far, I think from the police department, I'm sure the chief would want us to say that we've been very fortunate that we have not had any, our sworn personnel have remained healthy and that our critical services haven't been impacted.
Thank you. And I don't know, Chair Fajardo, if maybe you want to go down the other agencies that are here and just kind of get an update from their efforts.
Certainly. Let me go back to this list.
And I tried to name everyone on with their name and sort of the organization they're representing
On the Zoom itself.
Yes.
Although for me, I don't know if I have to change my settings. I think I do because it doesn't show the full screen. So I might see someone's name, but not their agency. So let me start with the agency that I can actually read as I adjust my settings. The name that I can fully read is Mr. Razo from LUSD.
Okay, sounds good. I might have some internet issues, so if I break up, just let me know. As far as we are working on, as Mr. Buhner mentioned, our superintendent, that school will resume on 8/18, but it will be virtual. So students will be going back to learning on a virtual platform. We're still trying to figure out some things as far as what that platform is going to look like and things like that with our bargaining members. But school will resume and start on 8/18. One of the things that we're doing to make sure that we get information out to our public is we have a series of town hall meetings. The one for the San Fernando Silmar area is going to be scheduled for July 22nd. So on July 22nd, there will be a town hall meeting where the COS, the community school administrator, Mr. Eduardo Solorzano, will be leading some conversation around the next steps, where we're at as a district, to make sure that our students are going to be safe and our staff is going to be safe returning to schools. We are looking at the possibility of what that's going to look like as the months go on and the cases go down. So obviously we have plans to hopefully go back to school as soon as it's safe to do so physically. But in the meantime, we do have plans to go back to school virtually to make sure that our students and our families and our staff are all safe doing so.
Thank you. Next on the list, although I cannot see the full agency, is Mr. Ross.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Were you calling for me, Gene Roski?
Yeah, Mr. Roski, I apologize.
Okay, great. Your voice cut out. Currently, we are still prepared to provide emergency communication support to the city. Sorry, let me put my video back on. Our role is to provide extra communications when normal communications modes are overloaded or are unavailable. And in the current environment, when we are not able to go into like the police station and the emergency operations center, we would have business band radios that the police shares with us. We have city radios that have channels that we can use outside of the normal police frequencies, and we would be able to provide communications into the PD and to the wider world via amateur radio without having to be on premises.
Thank you. Next, I see Ms. Rodriguez.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you guys said Ms. Rodriguez. I'm kind of cutting.
Yeah, the reception is, the audio is definitely cutting out, at least on my end. And I think that's what you're saying from what I partially heard. And then the last name that I see here, a member who is not directly part of the city of San Fernando, is Janet from Cert. And if she's available and would like to give an update.
Were you calling for Cert?
Yes.
All right, currently the LAFD call-out team has been dramatically reduced due to age restrictions, yet we have a team of 27 that is helping with the DOT food drives as logistics for delivery. And then the Battalion 12, BAT 12 Ops team is working with the CALSA Care Foundation in packaging food for 3,500 people to 4,500 people a day, Monday through Friday. That program is coming to an end tomorrow, but they will be continuing it on Wednesdays unless there are other organizations, possibly in San Fernando, that could use the food. And they are very eager to help as many people as possible. So if you know of any organizations that would like to have that type of delivery, then please let me know.
Thank you. That is the full list of organizations who are here. Mr. Kimball, you're on mute.
Yeah, so first of all, with Cert, that's actually a really good update. I know we're always getting calls about people that are interested in food, in where they can get food. That's been a big issue the last few months. So we'll connect after to see, you know, if there's not something we can work on locally in San Fernando. So if there is any discussion, Mayor Fardo, I know, and it's probably more of the toward the next administrative report. One of the things that we kind of wanted to discuss was about how we would ramp up if there were another, another emergency during COVID. But if there are any other staff members from San Fernando that I may have missed, or even Vice Chair Gonzalez, I know with City of LA, you might have some updates that you've been working through on your end that you might want to share.
His screen looks frozen to me from where I sit.
Yeah.
Oh,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like something's going on where everybody seems to be having weird connection problems today. Yes. On my half, what I've been really involved with so far, because due to the shortage of staff, I actually have not been working in the EOC or the DOC as of recent. I've been mostly focused out in the field where I'm overseeing the maintenance of day camps. So it's been very interested in how we're doing our social distancing there. But also this weekend, and one of the things that's not listed on here that we are definitely going to have to be taking into consideration is cooling centers. We had 2 separate cooling centers open over the weekend, and those are some things that obviously living in the valley, we're going to have to take into consideration on what procedures we will be taking when these open to make sure not only the safety of our individuals that work for us, but the individuals that are responding to get cold.
Thank you. Are there any other staff members who wanted to communicate on this item? I do not see any. In which case, Mr. Kimball, did you have anything to add, or did you want us to move on to item number 2 of this agenda?
I think just as a last point, and I think what Vice Chair Gonzalez just brought up is a really good example. What we really want to do is kind of create a communication channel with all of our different organizations, because sometimes we operate in a silo, and I know we'll send out, like we had Julie Recreation we had our cooling centers open this weekend, so we tend to put it on our social media that Saturday and Sunday our cooling centers were open, but we obviously don't reach. If we could utilize, or we could work with LAUSD and maybe Cert and even American Red Cross, and somehow, you could just either share that social media, and vice versa. If there's ever any event, especially food giveaways, or any school related issues that you would like the city to also share communication, please email any of that to my office, and my executive assistant does she also does our social media posts. So we'll make sure that we're also advertising any of those events, important information, whatever, for your agencies, so that we can make sure that all of this information kind of gets shared, among all of our constituents. We have a lot of overlapping constituencies, so we want to get out the word, especially right now, to as many people as possible. So from a communication standpoint, please just make sure, share with me anything that you would like us to promote, and vice versa. We'll share with you. I believe that we have an email list of all the members, so we'll make sure that we send something out so everyone has our emails, and we can make sure that we're coordinating our communication and getting as many people, connecting as many people to services as possible. So I think that's all we have from the San Fernando end. I think that would kind of puts a bow on this item.
This is Gene again. Could I interject for a moment on a recommendation?
Yes.
In Zoom meetings, bandwidth can really be used up by unneeded videos. So we can improve our voice communication if those who are not speaking or otherwise running the meeting shut off their videos until it's their turn to speak. That should improve things for us. We've seen that on other Zoom meetings.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I was just going to add one thing that might be helpful for the group to know, and I know a few of the members here are members of that. On a monthly basis, given our relationship with the American Red Cross a few years ago, we developed a resiliency committee under their Prepare LA program, which is known as Prepare San Fernando. I know the chief and Mr. Kimball played a critical role in helping to try and get that kicked off the ground. And we currently have anywhere from 18 to 21 members of that committee that meet on a monthly basis at City Hall. And of course, during this COVID epidemic, we've been unable to meet physically, but we've been continuing to meet virtually. And the 18 to 21 members represent the utilities, community-based organizations, residents of our community, the Cert program, American Red Cross, our radio communications folks. They've also included the LAFD, the Cert program, members of the faith-based community, and we've really had some good dialogue and also pushed out some of the Red Cross programs to improve resiliency in the community, done some smoke alarm programs to install smoke alarms here in the city of San Fernando, as well as they've sponsored a few Red Cross first aid CPR courses, and we've pushed out the Cert courses. So it probably would be good. Gene has a good mailing list, and maybe he can share that with the Disaster Council since he's the secretary of that group. But just to let you know that on a monthly basis, all these groups share a lot of what's going on amongst them in terms of what they're doing with relations to COVID, opportunities for sharing resources and information, as well as just updates on their plans. So I just want to make you aware of that.
Thank you for that. Are there any other points of discussion on this agenda item before we go on to the next one? I do not see any other hands. So we will go on to the next part of the agenda. This is item number 3 on the agenda. This discussion pertains to how COVID-19 may impact the non-COVID-19 emergency, such as earthquakes, wildfires, and windstorms, and what procedures may need to be implemented and or altered to accommodate social / physical distancing. Mr. Kimball, if you would once again like to lead us on this agenda item.
Sure, I'll kick it off. And I think the idea behind this discussion for the Disaster Council was really to get some feedback. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to deal with COVID-19 physical distancing restrictions as we go into, as Councilmember Gonzalez mentioned earlier, cooling centers, but even we're kind of getting into wildfire season, and we're going to be coming up on the the PSPS program, where some of us get circuits are shut off preemptively during wildfire response. So, but we still have to maintain, physical distancing if homeowners are displaced, or at least try to figure out a way that we don't make if there's a sheltering place like American Red Cross. And actually, I would be really interested to hear from the Red Cross. If Ms. Rodriguez's connection is a little better, but I would like what kind of plans, if any, that your organizations are starting on how we might, shelter people if there is a disaster like an earthquake, during a wildfire, how we might change our sheltering approaches, and what we might have to be ready for, obviously in dealing with the parameters of COVID-19. So I think for this item, we're actually interested from a city standpoint, just to hear what other other organizations are doing and how they're planning, if they've started planning yet, and you know, sort of just start those discussions so that we can we can share ideas, and maybe all have a better response when that does, when any of those things do happen.
So this is Christina. I can share an idea that I know that the Red Cross, what they're discussing, you know, if in the future, you know, if with COVID, if it does get any worse than what it is, they're thinking of getting hotel rooms for each family just in case they had to like evacuate during fire season. I know that's an idea, and I know that they also do that now. Like if someone has a house fire, they assist with the hotel. But now instead of just having big evacuation centers like at recreation parks, they're thinking of putting households in a hotel room just so that, you know, we don't spread anything. I know that's an idea. I don't have any more information at the moment. I actually have a meeting for that tomorrow, so that's something that I can send over to Lieutenant Rosenberg or Jean Roski once I have more of an idea where the Red Cross LA region is heading towards. But that is an idea that they had in mind.
Great, that's really interesting. That's really good feedback.
This is Gene. I could provide a little bit more information. As Christina mentioned, the Red Cross currently is not doing what we call congregate sheltering, where everybody goes into the normal shelter building. We're sheltering in hotels, motels, college dormitories, and putting rental trailers in campgrounds. And that's where we are housing people in a disaster situation. And since the beginning of that policy, sometime in early to mid-April, I believe, we have not had nationwide a need for a congregate shelter. Everything's been done in non-congregate shelters. The other thing are doing nationally, have done locally for the Soledad fire, we don't bring people in for evacuation centers. We have temporary evacuation points, which are outdoor, sheltered, but open air places where people can maintain social distancing and receive the information and supplies that are needed. So this is something that is well established and underway. I am not personally directly involved, but I've had on the order of 10 hours of COVID-19 special training, and there would be more if I were to deploy. The Red Cross is totally on board in protecting our clients, emergency responders, and our own staff.
Thank you for that update.
Thank you, Jean. I had no idea about that because I work in a whole different setting for the Red Cross. It's good to know that. Now I know that information.
Yeah, I'm a mass care team leader.
There you go.
I'd like to say I'm having my background blank is that I haven't eaten since 8 this morning. I just had food delivered. So I will be eating in the background, but I will still be here. So I apologize for that inconvenience. But Lieutenant Rosenberg, did you want to speak on this matter?
Yes, actually, last week, the California Office of Emergency Services, CalOES, issued some new guidelines with regards to mass care and sheltering that actually the county also had been in the process of reviewing and working in coordination with American Red Cross and other organizations. They've put out some guidelines, and even Red Cross, I think, put out about a 10-page guideline, which in fact I've forwarded and shared with the Director of Recreation and Community Services, Julian Venegas, because mass care and sheltering in a disaster falls under the Recreation and Community Services Department. And so they've done a lot in that area and prepping over the last couple of years, Mr. Venegas and his staff. And actually Area C worked about a year ago on developing a template for mass care and shelter for the annex for emergency operation plans, which we've been in the process of working as a city to update our emergency operations plan, and have gotten about 90% through a mass care and shelter annex. And now these new guidelines have come forth. So there is some information that has come from the state on what is to be considered and how to develop your shelters. As Mr. Roski said, I think non-congregate settings, along with what Christina said with regards to trying to identify and establish contracts early on in advance of any type of event with hotels, motels in the areas, and other types of non-traditional sheltering facilities is something that they're highly recommending. And so that information has been passed along to Mr. Venegas as we consider developing our mass care and shelter annex for our emergency operations plan. But there are some pretty good guidelines that have come down with regards to that from the state and the county and some from Red Cross.
Thank you. Mr. Kimball, would you like to lead this?
Yeah, I just had I had a question for kind of the group, because I think it spurred a little, right now is sort of a time that a lot of, residents start thinking about their emergency preparedness training. And I know Cert is a great program in a normal time that people can go through. And I heard Mr. Roski say something about he has 9 or 10 hours of COVID specific training. I was wondering if any of the group, Red Cross or Cert or any other agencies are giving training right now, especially COVID related training, but whether there are any training opportunities that we could put out, we can advertise, maybe it's online or whatever, but we could advertise through our website and our communications channels, because I think a lot of residents might be interested in that at this time.
Cert right now does not have anything like that, but they're working on putting together things like fire extinguisher training and such like that online. We are, as a community Cert team, which is slightly different. We don't run under the same restrictions that LAFD Cert does. We are doing a lot of different Zoom calls, and we've done evacuation. We've done a couple other ones, and I can get those Zoom call information check-ins to Lieutenant Erwin Rosenberg, sorry, if that would be helpful. But as far as COVID training specifically, I would love to get more information from the Red Cross on exactly how we can assist on a community Cert level, not LAFD Cert level, because that would not fly with them.
This is Gene. There is, may I speak?
Yes.
There is information available from the Red Cross, both for the community in general and for those who are responding to serve in like a mass care, mass feeding, or evacuation, sheltering situation. Much of that is available on YouTube. I will provide to Mr. Kimball links to those videos that can be shared. And also I received an email message with basically a flyer about our new preparedness education approach in the Los Angeles region. Previously was done in person. I'm one of the preparedness educators, and we are now doing that virtually. There is at least right now a once a week online English version, and another time in the day a Spanish version of the preparedness presentation. That's the one that I gave to the Prepare San Fernando group, but it's being done now virtually, and that is available to everybody who can connect with an internet device, and being done twice a week. I will send out that flyer to Mr. Kimball, and I will actually, what I think I'll do, I will send it out to the Prepare San Fernando coalition, and I will CC Mr. Kimball, and that way he will find out who's in the Prepare LA, Prepare San Fernando coalition, and we'll get that information to forward to others.
Great, thank you. That's great information.
Thank you.
I'd like to add on the Cert, there's Cal OES and FEMA are actually in the process of working with the University of Utah. And they're approving a what will soon be possibly by September rolled out in the state of California, a virtual online Cert program that'll provide somewhere between 12 and 16 hours of online training, both in English and Spanish. And then we'll require trainers that are certified to do the practical hands-on portion, or will recommend it. It won't be required, but it will be recommended. So that's something that just in the last week, Cal OES has announced to their Cert program managers and is working on, and it's been tested, and FEMA has approved it, and Cal OES is working on it. And part of it is trying to roll out both in English and Spanish by September.
Thank you. Are there any other members who would like to speak? It doesn't have to be one of the guests here, but Councilmember Gonzalez, anyone from San Fernando staff?
I would like to hear anything from staff.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I would just like to hear, see if there's anything staff would like to bring up before I make any comments.
Oh, okay, thank you. Staff, do you have any additional feedback, guidance, thoughts?
I don't have any at this time, other than, I think we're, as the lieutenant just alluded to, we're sort of working on local plans. Julian's been working hard on how to sort of looking at these congregate shelter opportunities over the next, couple months, as we know we're going to be impacted by the power shutoffs and potentially wildfires, and there's always the opportunity to be impacted by earthquakes. So we're kind of continuing to develop those, but all this feedback is really helpful for us, I think, on a staff level. So we appreciate all of that. I don't know if the chief or Tim or Diego or Julian have anything else to add. Doesn't look like it.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Gonzalez, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. One of the things that I think we should definitely take a look at is the possibility of adding a position onto this Disaster Service Council. And I think it's vital that we look and reach out to the county, because the county is the one who operates our pool facilities, which is vital because they have the showers, they have the lifeguards. Whenever we do a mass care shelter, I'm saying during normal times, because of what's currently going on, during normal times, we would probably take a look at having Rec Park be our go-to. We'll probably look at Rec Park being our go-to, because they also do have showers and it is ADA compliant for our mass care unit. So according to what we have currently, they are not a part of this. And I think that would be a vital piece of information that we need. And I'm hopeful that we're in constant communication with them. But I would also like to see what that entails. If there is a mass care unit that we have to set up, or mass care shelter that we have to set up, how would we utilize their showers, our rec gym, their lifeguards, if at all? I don't know if we have any answers for any of those questions now, or something that we discuss and bring back at later dates. Do we have any updates for any of that information?
I can have, I don't know if Julian's on the phone. I'm not sure if he has anything right now, but we can definitely have staff follow up with the county and how, what kind of agreements we might need to have in place. Those are really good questions, because, with regards to shower facilities and kind of the crossover there. So we can come back with some additional information on that at the next meeting to follow up.
Perfect. No, I think that's key. And especially because once the emergency happens, if you're one of the lucky ones to come onto the first shift of the A shift, you're going to wind up working 12 plus hours sometimes, and things fly by so quickly. And it's better that we get all this done now and have it ready before the actual situation happens and we have to have to try to make it work. And then also in regards to the cooling centers, how did we do? Did we get any individuals to participate this weekend?
We had a couple of inquiries. A couple of people called in finding out if they were open, but we did not have any actual people come in and use the cooling center.
Yeah, I can understand how difficult that might be for someone
Mhm.
who needs to go to a cooling center but is scared because they do not want to go and mingle with other individuals. So maybe when we do our social media posts or something, we also talk about some of the safety protocols that we're taking.
Yeah,
during this
definitely. We do have the cooling centers set up for social distancing, the one-way in and out to the restrooms, all by the guidelines that were put out by public health. I think the word getting out was not, a lot of people didn't know about it. So I think maybe if we do an alert with the Nexus alert, when we do open, that way people are at least aware that the people that have that system are to get notices that we do have the cooling centers open.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think it's always good to do our alerts, our blasts, but also make sure that in these types of alerts or blasts or social media posts, to try to emphasize the importance and maybe some of the steps that we're taking to ensure the public safety when they go there. Because I don't want someone to not go because they're scared that we're not taking safety precautions for them. And then also when it comes down to it, when was the last time we checked our Red Cross container? I don't know if there's
Yeah, the Red
inspection
Cross,
date, yearly, annually, or annually.
they do it not, I think they do it every second year, third year around there. They did come out in May to check out the trailer to see what was in there, and also we are working on the agreement to do the sheltering, so that way when a shelter is or they need to use shelter. So we've been in contact with the Red Cross Shelter Division to talk about an agreement with that. So we did get an agreement. Our attorneys made some revisions and then sent it back to Red Cross for their review. But we're working on getting that agreement up and finalized.
Perfect. No, that's great news. That's kind of all. I don't want to get too much into the weeds here and exactly how we're going to roll out. I'm glad that this is taken care of. I'm happy that we have had this meeting here today, so we can all virtually meet each other and show that we have individuals that have not only passion but an expertise in emergency response, and that we are taking this serious and definitely looking out for the city. So that's probably all that I would have to say on this, except for, like I said, just reiterate that we should reach out to the county to see what we need to do to get them on board, and if creating a position for them to be on board is necessary, and if it is necessary, then Nick, if we would have to run that through and bring it onto council to adjust our city ordinance for this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kimball, did you want to reply to any of that?
No, it was all really good feedback. I'm actually, Julie's also listening in. So I think that those are some really good comments related to sort of allaying fears of cooling centers by adding some of our steps, to our social media posts. So I think that was really good. With regards to the, the county we will definitely reach out to see what kind of agreement we can for a shower facility. If there is a desire to add a position, we can definitely ask them who might be appropriate from their organization, and then we would go back to council to potentially to amend the ordinance. I would request that maybe that is a future agenda item to talk about for the disaster council, to talk about adding someone from the county. So maybe we add that under the agenda items for next meeting.
Okay. And Mr. Kimball, did you have any other questions or comments, or did anyone else for item number 3?
I have none from staff.
Okay. Any of our any of the other board members? I do not see from any of the other board members, in which case we will move on to the next part of the meeting, a staff communication. I suppose, would this apply just to city staff or all board members? I presume it's simply city staff, correct? Mr. Kimball, you're on mute.
I would say all board staff and board members,
Okay.
communication from anyone, any updates from any of the board members or staff.
Any additional comments? I see none. As far as the agenda items for next meeting, on the same topic that Councilmember Gonzalez or Board Member Gonzalez brought up, I believe that we should at least have the discussion about letting one of the union reps from SEIU join. I know that, as I stated as a meeting, Mr. Villapando had expressed interest. And I think that if we add 2 more people, someone from the county, as Councilmember Gonzalez stated, and someone from SEIU, I could see that working out well, because I would also like their insight in terms of the direction that this organization should take and what they see on the ground. So that's simply my recommendation, but I look forward to hearing everyone else's feedback at the next meeting. Are there any other items to agendize for the next meeting?
I think from a city staff perspective, we just want to add an update. We're going through our hazard mitigation plan update. So I think this body would be good for the staff to just provide an update on that process and what that means. So I would propose a hazard mitigation plan update.
Thank you. Lieutenant Rosenberg, were you here to speak, or did you care to speak?
I was just going to say, Mr. Kimball, I think also our EOP will have to be agendized at some point to go through here too. I think that's part of that, what's required in the process. So I don't know if it'll be ready by then, but at some point it'll have to go through here too as an agendized item.
Thank you. Are there any other items to add to our next meeting? I see none.
And I think in Mr. Chair, just I think that the first item that we talked about tonight, the discussion pertaining to each agency's COVID-19 planning, et cetera, I think we'll keep that on as a for at least for now, as a standing agenda item. That we'll put that in the next one too, just so we all have the opportunity each meeting to update the group on any of our efforts.
Excellent idea. With that being said, we have concluded our meeting, so I will make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Council Member and Board Member Gonzalez. I will take roll. I, Chair Joel Fajardo, I'm a yes. Council Member Gonzalez? You're on mute, sorry.
Yes.
Lieutenant Rosenberg?
Yes.
Whoops, I lost my page. 1 second. Matthew Baumgardner, rather.
Yes.
Ron Powell?
It's actually Mr. Roski, yeah.
Yes, for disaster communications, Gene Roski.
On LAFD, you indicated earlier was absent. American Red Cross, you indicated earlier was absent, correct?
Christina Rodriguez is on. She joined a little. She joined.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was the one who couldn't speak clearly on the phone. Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you ask that again?
if you agree to adjourn.
Yes, I agree to adjourn. Sorry,
Thank you.
my service. I don't know. It's something with my Wi-Fi. I'm so sorry.
I think it's all of us today.
Okay.
So don't worry about it.
Okay. Thank you.
USD representative,
Yes.
and then the California Emergency Mobile Patrol representative.
That's actually the Cert, Janet from Cert.
Did she leave? It looks
I
like
believe she disconnected, yes.
She was the one who had trouble connecting.
Yeah.
Having said that, our meeting is hereby adjourned at 4:02 p.m. Thank you once again for coming together today. It's a very important topic, and I look forward to continuing this with all of you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.